If I gave you a button, a red button, big red button, and you could push it, and you could end all of the suffering in the world, all the hunger, all the disease, war, resource shortages, everything. But if you push the button, you also end all of human existence, life on Earth, the universe itself. Would you push that button? I've asked many people this question, and nobody has said they would push the button. Nobody. Most people don't even hesitate. They say, no, of course I wouldn't push the button. And yet, we as humanity have our finger pushing that button kind of slowly. Our finger is on the button. We face all kinds of problems. You don't have to look very far to find violence tearing us apart, environmental degradation. We face the not so distant future possibility of malicious artificial intelligence completely wreaking havoc on the human race and life on Earth as we know it. And we have the much longer and seemingly silly, when I say it, you're going to kind of laugh, but it's not a trivial problem. In a very long time, our star, the sun, is going to progress to the next stage of its stellar cycle, and life on Earth will become impossible. Now, that's going to be a few billion years in the future, but at least for me, I would like to see the human race go on for a few more billion years. And the reason that we have our finger on the button is that we are wasting the resources, the most important resources for solving all of the little particular problems that in aggregate have our finger on the button. And that resource that we're wasting is the creative power and intelligence of our people. And the reason we're wasting all of the genius in the world, it can be boiled down to a strange little dichotomy that I'm going to share with you, and that is the difference between finite and infinite games. Now, this concept comes to us from a guy named James Carse, and I'll explain to you. A finite game, this is the kind of game we're really used to. A finite game, its goal is to end play. The whole goal of a finite game is to stop playing. And at the end, you declare the winners and the losers. The winners get their prize, and the losers go away sad and with nothing. An infinite game, on the other hand, is one that is played with the objective of extending play. So the whole point of the infinite game is just to figure out how to keep playing. Now, the reason we are wasting the creative potential and intelligence of our young people is that we have contrived a very hideous, finite game in our educational system. And we've done it under the name of this very euphemistic, wonderful-sounding thing that we call the meritocracy. The meritocracy sounds like a great thing, doesn't it? In fact, when you start attacking the meritocracy, people get very uncomfortable. They give you really angry looks because, of course we need a meritocracy. Of course, the best person for a job should do the job. Of course, the best people should be running our companies, our countries. The best people should be leading our science laboratories. And that seems pretty reasonable. But look around the world today. Look at politics first, and you can say, wait a minute, this isn't going quite as planned. Even look at big business, and you might say the same thing. Wait, how do we have this system where a whole bunch of sociopaths get together and make a bunch of decisions that really aren't in our best interest? Well, that's pretty much the way the business world works today. Well, the reason for this is that we have constructed this finite game in our educational system to pick and choose the winners. So, the educational process is a methodology of filtering winners from losers. And we're told when we're very young, well, if you study really hard now, you pay attention in school, you do well on those tests, and then your whole life will be made. You won't have to worry about anything the rest of your life. This sounds very much like a finite game, doesn't it? You play, and then you want it to come to an end, and indeed, you talk to very many people in university, and their whole goal is just to get it over with, right? Oh, when am I going to graduate? So this is indication that we're playing a finite game here. And so we're told that from very young. Get to the end, and then the whole rest of your life will be fantastic. Well, that sounds all right if you happen to be one of the winners. But what if you're not? And what if the reason that you're not a winner has nothing to do with your ability, your creative potential, your work ethic, none of those things? Then what? If you're artificially declared a loser for some other set of reasons. That would be a pretty bad system. And yet, this is exactly the system that we have. A few numbers that help quantify this might be of some help. So, if you look at the total population of the world and you take just the people aged 15 to 25 who have an IQ of 130 or higher, this is very high, very, very smart kids, there are about 25 million of them. 25 million. And if you take all of the top 500 universities in the world, and you assume that each of them can educate about 10,000, which is, most of them don't, 10,000 at a time, you get to the conclusion that, well, we only have enough high-quality education for 5 of 25 million people, of our absolute smartest genius-level people. 20% of them get N, and the other 80% don't. What happens to those other 80%? Well, for the whole rest of their life, because they lost this game, they aren't really taken very seriously. They don't have the opportunities. They're just as smart as those other 5 million, but we simply don't have the supply. If we built a Harvard to educate all 25 million of those kids, we would need about 3,700 Harvards and an endowment of $125 trillion. Just here in Guatemala, you have about 53,000 young people in this demographic. Just taking a normal distribution. 53,000. So you would need about, let's say, 7 or 8 Harvards. How many Harvards do you have here in Guatemala? You would need, in fact, about $175 billion endowment to have enough Harvards just to educate your geniuses here in Guatemala. That's more than 2 times the gross domestic product of your country. So you have these 50,000 kids of extraordinary potential, and they don't have anybody saying, hey, I can help you to get that high level of knowledge and ability that you need to bring your full talent, your full potential into the world. And so those 53,000 young geniuses will be, probably most of them will be declared losers. And they will spend the rest of their life as losers. To me, this is a tremendous tragedy. And it would be bad enough if it were just those 25 million, but if you go down just a little bit more to people who are considered of very high intelligence, not genius, but very high intelligence, there are another 168 million of them between the age of 15 and 25. Now, the problem is even deeper because of our elite universities, our top 500 universities in the world, guess where they are? 87% of them are in the Anglo countries, US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, England, or Western Europe. 87%. But 60% of those young geniuses are in Asia, 15% of them are in Africa, 8.5% of them are here in Latin America, and 5% of them are in Eastern Europe. So just because you're born, you won the lottery of intelligence, but you lost the lottery of nationality, you don't have the opportunity to bring your genius into the world. But this finite game still gets worse. Because not only do we have a lack of supply, but the system itself is structured in such a way as to make truly smart people think twice about going through the process. How many of you know who Freeman Dyson is? Anybody know Freeman Dyson? Very, very important physicist and mathematician. He's very old now, but he's still living. Dyson, he did all of the mathematical proofs for Richard Feynman's work. And Dyson has won numerous prizes in physics and mathematics. He's responsible for many concepts, important concepts in astrophysics and the exploration of space. Freeman Dyson does not have a doctorate. He, in fact, calls the whole system, the whole PhD system, abominable. And I've talked to a lot of PhDs in science that went to prestigious universities in the US, and they say, well, most people come out of that process of publish or perish completely losing all ability to do anything useful with the rest of their life. Because the only way you get a PhD is to publish lots of articles in journals that nobody will ever read. And then at the end of this 6-7 year process, after your entire soul has been sucked from you, then you get to do a postdoc. And you get to make $35,000, $40,000 a year, which in the US doesn't go very far. And you know, if you have a PhD in mathematics or physics, you're getting a little knock on your door from some hedge funds on Wall Street saying, hey, we'll pay you $500,000 if you come work for us. $500,000, $40,000 a year postdoc, and no guarantee of a tenure track faculty position, $500,000. What happens, of course, is that a lot of our best talent, again, continuing to play this finite game, is sucked off to finance, policy, places where they have nice badges that say, hey, I'm a productive member of society. I can afford an expensive house or car. But we've constructed this whole system. We've built it, and we all keep playing the game. Each of us, by deciding to play this finite game, is propping up a world where our greatest talents, our most creative, intelligent people aren't able to bring all of their possibilities into the world. Each of us is part of this system, and we're all propping it up. When we look at people's CVs to hire them, we have a big stack. We immediately start looking at these two-dimensional, arbitrary mechanisms. Okay, what university did they go to? This pile, and then there's this pile over here. Throw away the rest. And we also do this in such a way that you have to make all of these important decisions when you're 18, 19 years old. How many of you, be honest, how many of you at 18 had any clue of what you were doing with your life? You may have had a plan, but now, looking back, how many of you would say, oh yes, I knew everything that was going to happen in my life, and I planned accordingly? Anybody? Only the 19-year-olds can raise their hand, probably. We have no idea what life is about at 18 or 19 years. We don't. And yet we have to make all these decisions that we say, this is going to be the trajectory of the rest of your life. Don't make the wrong one. Don't screw it up. And so this then pushes us into a series of risk-averse decisions. We don't want to screw up. So that postdoc decision, $500,000, $40,000 a year postdoc, that actually starts in kindergarten. That decision making process is starting to be implanted in us in kindergarten. Because we start going through school, and suddenly we get this opportunity to choose what we're going to study. We think this is great freedom. Oh, now you get to pick some of your classes. Not all of them are imposed on you. And so if you're pretty smart, but maybe you're not the absolute top-level math genius, you say, I don't know, math is pretty hard. Science, that's pretty hard. I'll study something I know I can get an A in, instead of risk getting a C or a B over here in something a little bit harder. So this game also drives lots of our smart kids into other things because, well, if I have good grades, I get into a good university, and then my life can go on pretty well. So I don't want to take any risks. No mistakes. Well, the only way we learn anything is by making lots of mistakes. And that's what we should be encouraging. We should be redesigning education as an infinite game. The whole point of learning is so that you can keep on learning. You can learn more things. You can learn more interesting things. If you decide, I'm bored with this, now you can go over and learn something else. But we don't have a system that allows people to do that. In fact, we look down on people that keep learning after they get into adulthood. We say, oh, what are you doing going back to university at 40 or 50? This is an absurdity. We should be saying, wow, that's really fantastic. You want to start studying physics when you're 45? Wonderful. That would be really wonderful if we lived in such a world. But we don't live in that world. We live in a world where you're supposed to have everything together, and you're supposed to be playing that finite game, collecting these badges that let you prove that you've accomplished something in your life. And so there are all of these brilliant, young Freeman Dysons out here in the world that we'll never hear about. They won't be solving our problems. They won't be helping take humanity beyond our solar system and into other planets that we've now identified with the Kepler telescope. We know they're there. We know some of them are habitable. We know that our solar system alone has enough resources to support life of about 400 quadrillion people. But we can't go get them because all of our geniuses are trapped in this little finite game that we have given the name meritocracy. So I encourage you, if you're a business leader, you work in a nonprofit, you are involved in politics, whatever you're doing with your life, you can play a little part in helping remake this finite game into an infinite game. And we can solve all of the problems that face humanity, all of them, just by applying our most precious resources better. So let's work together and let's keep on playing. Thank you.